The desert stretched endlessly, golden dunes rippling under the merciless Sunday. The horizon trembled in a haze of heat. The silence was so complete, so profound, that even the smallest sound seemed like a violation. And somewhere, hidden beneath that vast expanse of shifting sand, lay a secret older than any city, older than memory itself, a secret men had come chasing, but none had ever returned to tell. They called it the Well of Death. No one really knew what it was: a bottomless pit, a sinkhole, a cursed crater that devoured everything that dared to approach. Villagers whispered about it in fear. Travelers avoided it. And yet greed, as always, pulled men toward their doom. Kripal Singh was a man of the desert. His life was carried on the back of a camel, his days measured by the distance between one dune and the next. He was not a scholar, not a man of books, but he knew the desert better than most men knew their own homes. They called him the ship of the desert, not for his camel, but for himself. One evening, as the sun bled red into the horizon, Kripal wandered further than he had intended. His camel suddenly halted, refusing to step forward. Its nostrils flared, its body trembled. Kripal frowned. "What is it, boy?" he whispered, patting the animal's neck. But the camel groaned, turned its head sharply, and began backing away. No matter how Kripal tugged the reins, the animal would not move forward. Instead, it spun around, desperate to escape. Kripal had seen many dangers in the desert: sandstorms, mirages, snakes, and bandits. But never had his camel refused him like this. He glanced ahead. The sand looked no different. The air shimmered like always, and yet something was wrong. The stillness was too heavy, the silence unnatural. That night, as he returned to his hut, Kripal knew deep in his bones that the desert was hiding something, something alive, something watching. Months later, word spread of a massive project. A solar power plant was to be built deep inside the desert. The government and a private company had invested millions. Teams of researchers and engineers were sent to survey the land, measuring sunlight intensity, soil stability, and wind direction. But soon, whispers emerged. One survey vehicle had gone missing, then another. Entire crews vanished, their radio signals going dead as if swallowed by the earth. Satellite images were ordered. At first, the missing vehicles appeared clearly stuck near a particular patch of desert. But then, in the next transmission, the vehicles were gone, completely gone, as though the desert had erased them. Panic spread through the company headquarters. Millions were at stake. A deadline loomed. They needed answers. Someone mentioned a man, a local who had gone deeper into the desert than anyone else, a man who might know the secret routes, the shifting moods of the dunes. His name, Kripal Singh. One evening, as Kripal was stirring lentils in a small pot, a knock sounded on his wooden door. He frowned. Visitors were rare. When he opened the door, 3 men stood there. Their suits looked too sharp, too new for the dust of the village. Behind them, a white jeep idled. "Mr. Kripal Singh," the man in front asked, extending a hand. Kripal hesitated. "Yes, who are you?" "We are from the Solar Research Project," the man said smoothly. "We've heard of you. Your knowledge of the desert is unmatched. We need your help." Kripal's face darkened. "You don't want my help. Stay away from that place. There is something there, something you cannot fight." The officer leaned forward. "Mr. Singh, we are prepared to pay you well, very well, enough to clear any debts you may have." Kripal stiffened. He didn't like strangers knowing about his debts, but the truth was he owed money too much, and his work had been drying up. He looked at the men. They weren't going to take no for an answer. He sighed heavily. "Fine, but remember my words, what you are chasing. It's not gold, not sunlight, not minerals. It's death." The next morning, the convoy set out. 2 jeeps loaded with equipment followed behind Kripal, who rode his camel at the front. His eyes scanned the dunes, reading the subtle patterns of the sand. The desert spoke to him in a language others couldn't hear. For hours they moved forward. The sun climbed high, burning their skin, draining their strength. Sweat trickled down faces. The jeeps roared, wheels struggling against the loose sand. Kripal's camel walked steadily, calmly. Normally, it would warn him, hesitate, groan, or turn back if danger lay ahead. But strangely, today it was silent. Kripal narrowed his eyes. "Why are you quiet, boy? Don't you feel it?" Behind him, the officer chatted nervously. "How much further?" one asked. Kripal didn't answer. His gut twisted. Something was wrong. Then, suddenly, the lead jeep's engine roared louder. The vehicle lurched forward, overtaking Kripal's camel. "Stop!" Kripal shouted. "Don't go ahead of me." But the jeep kept moving. Its wheels spun faster, as if dragged by an invisible force. The driver slammed the brakes, but the jeep slid forward uncontrollably. Sand gave way beneath it. The vehicle tilted, sank, and then it was as if the earth opened its mouth. The jeep vanished into the sand. Screams erupted. The second jeep screeched to a halt. Men jumped out, running forward, but Kripal threw his arms wide. "Stay back," he shouted. "Can't you see? The ground is alive." They froze. The sand was moving, not like an ordinary landslide. It pulsed, like a living thing. Ripples spread outward from the hole, swallowing the jeep whole. Within seconds, all that remained was smooth, flat sand. The desert was silent again. That night, the shaken team camped far from the spot. No one spoke for hours. Finally, one of the officers broke the silence. What the hell was that a sinkhole? Kripal's face was pale in the firelight. He shook his head. Not a sinkhole, a guardian. The men exchanged uneasy looks. Kripal continued, voice low. "My grandfather told me stories. Long ago, this desert was not empty. Tribes lived here. They worshipped the desert, believed it had a spirit that protected its creatures, snakes, scorpions, foxes, even the smallest beetle. When invaders came, trying to strip the land of its minerals, the desert fought back. Whole armies vanished in storms, wells swallowed entire caravans. The greatest of these guardians was the Well of Death, a place that would not allow greed to pass. So let AD make," the officer scoffed. "Fairy tales. We deal with facts, Mr. Singh." "Then explain what you saw today," Kripal snapped. No one had an answer. Despite their terror, the company refused to abandon the project. Too much money was invested, too much pressure from above. "We have to finish the survey," the lead officer said grimly. "If we stop now, we'll be ruined." Kripal shook his head. "You'll be worse than ruined. You'll be dead." But they didn't listen. The next morning, they prepared again. Cameras, drones, seismic sensors all loaded. They would map the well from a distance. They would prove it was nothing more than shifting sand. Kripal mounted his camel reluctantly. His gut screamed at him to flee, but he couldn't. Not with so much money promised, not with debts chaining him down. They moved closer. The air itself felt heavier. Every breath was harder. The sun dimmed strangely, shadows lengthening unnaturally, though it was still morning. Then the ground shivered. At first, it was subtle, like the purring of some giant beast beneath their feet. Then it grew louder, stronger. The dunes trembled, sending cascades of sand sliding down. The second jeep's alarm blared. Its tires spun helplessly. The driver panicked. "Get out," Kripal shouted. Men leapt from the jeep, stumbling, but the sand beneath them liquefied, dragging them down. Screams tore through the air as arms flailed, reaching desperately. One by one, the desert claimed them. The officers backed away in horror, but the sand wasn't stopping. The pit was widening, pulling everything toward its hungry center. Kripal's camel reared in terror. Kripal fought to control it, but his eyes locked on the abyss. For a split second, he saw something deep within the swirling sands. Eyes, glowing ancient eyes staring back at him. The desert wasn't just alive, it was conscious. The pit roared now, a sound like thunder mixed with 1,000 voices, screaming at once. Winds whipped violently, a storm forming out of nowhere. Sand lashed against skin like knives. The remaining officer shouted over the noise, "We have to escape! Kripal, lead us out!" But Kripal didn't move. He sat frozen, staring into the pit. A vision burned in his mind, armies of the past swallowed whole, their bones buried beneath the dunes, caravans, temples, entire cities erased. The desert had always been the victor, and now it had chosen again. Kripal understood. The desert wasn't punishing at random. It punished those who sought to change it, exploit it, cage its power. And yet, why had it spared him? As the storm reached a deafening pitch, Kripal realized the truth. He wasn't an enemy. He was part of the desert, its child, its voice. The ground beneath the officers split wide. They screamed, vanishing into the maw of sand. Equipment, jeeps, metal, all dragged down. Kripal's camel bucked wildly. The pull of the pit tugged at them, stronger and stronger. Sand whipped into Kripal's eyes, blinding him. "No," he roared. "You know me. I am yours. I have always been yours." The storm halted. For one terrifying heartbeat, everything went silent. Then, like a miracle, the sand beneath Kripal solidified. The camel steadied. The pit stopped expanding. Kripal gasped, heart pounding. Around him, the desert lay calm once more. Every trace of the officers, their machines, their greed gone, erased as if they had never existed. Only Kripal remained. When Kripal staggered back into the village days later, clothes torn, eyes hollow, people gathered in awe. "What happened?" they whispered. "Where is the company? Where are the machines?" Kripal stared into the distance, his voice rough, haunted. The desert took them. No one dared ask further. They saw the truth in his eyes. From that day, the area around the Well of Death was declared forbidden, not by the government, not by the company, but by the desert itself. No maps showed it. No satellite ever captured it again. It was as though the land had closed its doors forever. Kripal lived on, carrying the weight of what he had seen. At night, he sometimes woke in terror, hearing the roar of the pit, feeling the pull of the sands. And sometimes, just before dawn, he swore he could feel those ancient eyes watching him still. The Well of Death remained, patient, waiting for the next soul foolish enough to challenge it.